What is up, everyone? My name is Sholtan, and today I want to talk about the Anthem VIP Demo. I have two other videos prior to this, which feature gameplay highlights. The one big thing, though, is the commentary on these videos is French, and the reason why is because I am a French Canadian. All my friends, my girlfriend, we're all French Canadians, and when we game, we like to speak French. And so as I was going through the gameplay and thinking about adding my own commentary, I was just going through the moments and I was just having fun, kind of reliving it. And it just felt disingenuous just put my voice over it, right? I felt like the videos themselves, with the moments, with the laughs, with the talks, it felt much more, it conveyed much more what I was trying to show, right? Which is what playing Anthem feels like, to me, playing with my buddies. And I just but as for informative videos like the one I'm doing today, that's all going to be in English. I still want to get that side really cool, but when I'm doing live gameplay, I'm not gonna try and force everyone to speak English awkwardly when our first language and the first thing that come to mind when we want to talk while we're gaming is just French. So one thing while we're here, I put some random gameplay in the background to talk over. But one thing I want to talk about here is the one thing that I really love about Anthem is the customization. You get to make, first of all, in choosing your class, right? You have the Ranger, you have the Colossus, you have the what is it called? The Interceptor, and then the Storm. Each and every single one of them have their distinct look. They have their distinct feel. Personally, I went with Colossus because from day one of the reveal, I knew this was going to be the class that I was going to choose. But then, choosing your class and then choosing how you make your class look, right? You get different armor pieces. You have a lot of freedom with the colors. I really like that, and I hope this comes through for the final product. So that is a big plus, right? Just giving you the freedom to to make your personal exosuit, right? You really get to make it your own, even with the variety in your equipment, right? So you get different, for example, in my gameplay videos, at certain points I'm using, a mortar, and at other points I have a storm coil is what it's called, and that makes, instead of shooting a mortar in front of me, now I'm doing this electrical AoE around me that which I found was really useful against the scorpions, right? The bug enemy types, right? You kind of just go into a swarm and you burn them very easily. So you get that freedom of, depending on what you're fighting, you may have different loadouts that you prefer, and then that goes in. So that's your abilities. Then you have your weapons, right? And then my favorite weapon right now, which is only usable when you're playing the Colossus, is the autocannon, right? The big machine guns, the mini guns almost, and these things feel powerful. You're just raining a hell of bullets on your enemies. It's by far my favorite weapon. But then you get your grenade launchers, which I didn't really like because you have to manually detonate the charges yourself with the other trigger. So I didn't really like that. In the heat of things, it's kind of hard to manage properly, and I felt like I was wasting more grenades than anything else. But then you have your shotguns, your snipers. But what's fun is, even in these, these archetypes of weapons that we're used to in so many games, they managed to give us some variety. For example, you can have your standard sniper rifle, or you can have an explosive sniper which throws bombs at enemies, or the one that I got was a full auto sniper. So you know, because you're in these big exosuits, in the javelins, when you're aiming with a sniper, you don't get any weapon sway, right? Your arms are strong enough to hold it still. Um, so you get this pinpoint laser sight accuracy, with the stomping power of a sniper and the firing speed of an auto rifle. Now the one problem that I did find was the clip was only like 12 bullets, which emptied very fast. It took a fair amount of time to reload, and you didn't really have that many reloads in the first place. So, you know, I kind of sucked to the autocannon and the shotgun, or the pulse rifle for my secondary, but I always had the autocannon. That thing shreds, that thing works in pretty much all the situation. It's just that it's very easy to use all your bullets, which I kind of like. The combat is very ability based. You know, you're using your abilities often. You don't have long cooldowns like you do in something like Destiny. You're gonna be, if you're not spamming your abilities as soon as you have them, you're not playing right. That's when you start not having any bullets, right? You need to use your melee. You need to, you know, if you're playing Colossus, use the shield bash. Use everything that you have at your disposal, right? I mean, so again, one thing I will commend for Anthem is the fact that, you know, you not only do you get to, you know, choose a class that goes for your play style, like every at least for the two that I played in the demo, which were the Ranger and the Colossus, because at first we were only able to unlock one of the other javelins. By the end of the demo, on the last day in the afternoon, we were able to unlock the two others, but I just wanted to finish the demo, trying to unlock as much gear as possible for the Colossus. So I'm probably going to play the other ones, the Interceptor and the Storm, in the open beta, which is due next week. So if you want to try out Anthem, I highly suggest getting into that. You know, everybody's going to have access to it. You get to try it, and really, because that's the thing, right? Anthem is going to be sold on just playing it, because I was skeptical at first, and you know, right now I am sold. The gameplay of it itself is freaking awesome. But to go back to the different classes, right? So you have the Ranger, which is pretty much what it's called. You know, he's the range DPS pretty much. You know, from what I saw, he can throw seeking missiles. He can, his ultimate grants him the ability to shoot a volley of missile, and it's super great to kill a whole swarm of enemies. He also has grenades, so he's much more like the, you know, your standard grunt, your soldier archetype. And then with the Colossus, you know, you're literally a tank, but you get to play in a completely different way, because the other javelins, they have an energy shield, and the Colossus doesn't. The Colossus only has thick armor, and so you have to play this. You always have to be on the lookout for health pickups to keep yourself sustained, and use your frontal shield, which means you can only bring up your shields in front of you. So, you know, if someone's flanking you, that's a huge, you know, that's a big problem for you. So, you know, I do like the fact that everything's really different, right? The assassin type, which would be the Interceptor, is much more melee based on the build that my friend played, and so you're just zooming in and going fast paced like an assassin should. And then you have the Storm, which is more of the tactician mindset, I'd say. You know, you have a lot of crowd control with freezing, but you're using kind of all the elements. And from what I saw, that looks awesome, so I can't wait to try it in the next demo. My girlfriend and my buddy's brother, both of them seem to enjoy themselves quite a lot playing this. So you get to choose, you know, a play style that suits your play style, and then on top of that you get to, you know, customize your look, your colors, the wear and tear on your armor, all that stuff. So you get to express yourself and make your javelin your own. And then, you know, on top of that you get, you know, to choose your abilities, you get to choose your weapons, you get to upgrade your armor and all that stuff. So the one big selling point to me on Anthem was the freedom, um, you know, of making your javelin your own. This is the game where I looked at the customization. I do hope that customization will stay like this in the actual game. I know they're gonna have microtransactions, but you know, if we get a fair amount of cosmetic options in the base game, and if we're able to acquire them with in-game money at a fair price, I don't have a problem with that, you know. And if I have a lot of fun with the game, maybe I'll drop a few bucks on it, you know. Maybe EA could learn a thing or two about that, you know, gaining um, the trust of the gamers and then earning their money instead of blatantly stealing it almost with predatory practices. So, you know, like I said, I'm just gonna keep doing all the positives and then I'll get to the negatives. Um, the other positive is the gameplay, right? Once you've customized all your thing, once you're done fine-tuning your machine, it's time to actually fly it. And one thing I will say is Anthem nails the... I mean, everybody's doing the Iron Man comparison, but there's a reason why everyone's doing the comparison. It's because it's true. From what I've played, like, the Ranger and the Colossus literally feel like, you know, your normal Iron Man and then the Hulkbuster. That's literally how they feel, and you know, that's just freaking awesome. So, you know, just the flight, the speed, the verticality of it, the freedom to pretty much look at a battlefield, and that's the one thing, like, everything is just kind of scaled up, you know. Fights are larger, you know, they're fought on a larger surface. You have more long range encounters, and you have to really plan your approach and try to, you know, if you have you know, machine gun towers shooting at you, turrets, you have to take them out, right? You have to prioritize the right enemies, and you have to strategize, you have to talk with your team, and that is a big aspect that I really enjoy. Is just how everything is kind of a little bigger, right? Sure, the AI isn't the best, but when you have so many enemies to take out, when you have so much action, you kind of just don't notice it that much. And yes, the AI is not like the smartest, but in terms of accuracy and damage output, they're definitely a threat. I mean, I played the whole demo on hard mode at first, except for the stronghold. The stronghold we did normal first, then we did it hard all the time. And the game was fairly hard. Like, I was dying a fair amount, and so were my friends. So there is still that challenge aspect to it that I really like. Like, yes, the AI is not the best, but it's definitely, like, I mean, they kind of have to be. If they're freaking perfect, like, this game's gonna be unbeatable. And I mean, we haven't even seen what the higher difficulties are. So yes, we play the game on hard, but what is it like when you're playing in Masterwork and Legendary rank? You know, where what I think the end game is gonna be, from what I've seen, is you get to replay a lot of the content. That's pretty much what looter shooters are, right? You replay a lot of the content, just a little bit harder every time. But I kind of like where they're going there. So what you do is, once you're level 30, it's kind of gonna go with Destiny and Light, right? In Destiny 1, and then it became Power in Destiny 2 for some reason. But you know, your armor is gonna dictate your power from that point, right? So these missions are going to be locked behind what the amount of power that you have, right? With all the stats from your weapons, your abilities, and your armor and all that. So I do like where they're going there. Kind of feels like they're taking the Diablo route with a lot of higher tiers of difficulty. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So you get, you know, the tight gameplay, you get the difficulty, because like flying feels good, but then playing the javelins, you know, in these fights, that is really good. I mean, just flying into the combat zone and just, you know, raining hell on your enemies and then dropping down and literally like a freaking meteor, and the earth quakes and crackles under you and all your enemies dies in the process. That is something that this game nails. And then, you know, you have your weapons, with which, you know, they feel weighty and they feel powerful, although you're kind of fighting bullet sponges. So you won't always feel like you're doing a lot of damage, but that's because you have to use your abilities a lot more, and the abilities are so satisfying to use. Every ability, from the Colossus, from the Ranger, everything felt good, everything was easy to use, everything felt, you know, that's one thing that I will commend. Like, the game doesn't necessarily hold your hand on how to play it, right? They kind of let you figure it out for yourself, but the controls, at least on the controller, feel so natural and so, well, natural is pretty much the word that works here, where I never really had to look up how something would work. I would just figure it out instantly, and everything just felt normal, right? I took decisions. I tried. Every time I was looking at a situation, I was like, hey, maybe if I do this, I could actually do it, right? I had the freedom to do it. You know, I could choose my weapons. If I wanted more long range, I had that option. If I wanted, you know, more close quarter combat weapons, I had that option. You know, if I want to shoot a mortar, I have that. If I want the AoE around me with the storm coil, I have that option too. So again, very impressed with, you know, how nailing it. And then you have these ultimates, which are just amazing, right? The Ranger, you get to lock on a bunch of enemies, and then you shoot a cluster of missiles. That's very satisfying. But for me, the Colossus is by far the best in my eyes. You know, you just shoot these giant shells, and you almost feel like you're shooting nukes at this point. The way your screen tears a little bit, and all the particle effects. There's one thing, like, sometimes you just have so much action going on, you're like, I can't see anything at all. And it's one of those games where I don't mind, because I like the feeling of power. The power fantasy is going full steam in this game, and I really like it a lot. That's why I like Destiny when it first came out. That's what hooked me first. I just feel like Anthem just gives me what I want a little bit more, though. Like, the fact that it's third person, you get to see your character and your customization. The flight just gives you all this freedom and gives a whole other scale to the combat. It's just like when the game, and this is when I'm gonna go into the negatives now. When the game works, it really does. You know, one thing I will say is the story right now hasn't really grabbed me. I'm not too sure about the idea of, you know, having this single player component. I feel like it kind of breaks the flow, right? Like, when you're gonna do the campaign, like, you have the mission variety where you're playing into your javelins, and then you have the story part where you're at Fort Tarsis in first person, literally walking at a slug's pace from point A to point B, talking to people. And I don't know if it's because we were thrown in the middle of it, but I was just not feeling it. I ended up literally skipping because I just wanted to play. Like, I was just smashing the B button, and I don't want that to happen in the actual game. I'm gonna give it its chance on release. Right now I just wanted to play. as much as I could. But like I said, I kind of feel like it's gonna break the pace of the game, where you're hanging out with your friends, you're having fun, you're doing missions, you're having these badass moments. Then you go to town to, you know, look at your loot and all that, and it's like, oh yeah, I have to go talk to people to move on to the next mission, and then everybody goes radio silent their own ways, in their own session, and goes to talk to everybody. And then if people start talking, you're not paying attention to the stories, or you're doing missions and you're like, why are we here again? So I don't know, it kind of takes me out of it. When you compare that to Destiny, I feel like Destiny did it better. As far as what I'm seeing here, like in Destiny, I never felt I was taken out of the experience, really. You know, the cutscenes were short and sweet, and you could just go back to the gameplay. Whereas here, you have choices to make. You have, sometimes they make you literally talk to this person, and then you go there to talk to another person, but he's not there, and someone tells you that he's somewhere else, and you're just going everywhere, walking, the slowest walking I feel like I've ever felt in a game. And I don't know, it kind of kills it, right? So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not looking forward to the story. I'm really much more here for the gameplay and playing with my friends and getting loot and customizing my javelin. That's what I'm here for, the game. But then on top of that, you had the technical issues, right? So day one, my buddy Nick, you know, he was the first one to get in the demo, and he had the hardest time getting in. Then you know, after that, I was trying it at his place, and we encountered so many bugs in free roam. You know, disappearing enemies, not getting any objectives in free roam at all, like no public events starting ever, so you had literally nothing to do. You're in the middle of a fight, you're in the middle of a fight, and you get a loading screen, and it's like, hey, your expedition's over, and you're like, well, I was having fun there. And then every time you're hit with one of these loading screens, you had the infinite loading screen bug, right? So, which, you know, there's no getting out of except closing your application and just starting all over again. Now, thankfully, if you were in an expedition, the game would take you right back in. So, you know, if all your friends get separated, you could all get back in and just wait for each other to get back in and continue on with your mission. That was nice. I know there were a lot of complaints of people losing gear when they get disconnected, but that's actually false. What happens is all the gear that you win in a mission will be put in some kind of vault, and at your next victory screen, you'll get that gear eventually. So I mean, so that was, you know, that saved me a lot of frustration, because that was taking me out of the game, you know, thinking like, oh, I've been playing an hour in free roam, and I had a ton of blues, and they're all lost, and that got me out of it. Then I went on Reddit and found out that if you, like, literally the fix for this is you just go into an expedition by yourself, and as soon as you load in, you just gotta quit, you back out, and then you'll get your expedition victory screen with 0 XP, but you'll get all the gear that you earned in your previous session. So that is nice, but it's also like very awkward, right? Why don't they just do like Destiny, and you get your engram and that's it, you have a new shotgun, it's in your inventory right now. No, you have to go through like the fact that the victory screen is what gives you your gear, you know, or just, you know, as soon as you're in town, just bang, you know, you got kicked out of your expedition because of an infinite loading, and then you are back in at Fort Tarsis. You should just be greeted with, you know, all your loot, instead of going through the risk of another infinite loading screen. Because like every time, that was the thing, the infinite loading screen wasn't like a bug that you encountered here and there. It was like guaranteed to happen at one point in a session, and that's a big problem for me. That part was inexcusable. Sometimes, like, I know I'm enjoying myself in the gameplay, because, like I said, when it works, But I have so many moments of me just raging out of it and being like, okay, I need a fucking break right now. And then taking like a 2-hour break before we go back into the game. Like, me and my friends were literally playing the game like at 3 separate occasions a day, because like we'd play a little bit, then something would fuck up, then we'd get out, then we would go back in 2 hours later, then something else fucked up, someone gets disconnected and doesn't get to fight the final boss of the stronghold and stuff like that. Stuff that really takes you out and makes you literally rage, and at that point you're not enjoying yourself, right? You don't feel rewarded for your time. And to me, like, that is a problem. I know it's just a demo, right? Like, a lot of people are gonna say, you know, it's a 6-week-old build. I understand that, but at the same time, this is, you know, it's a VIP demo. People that are on this demo, you know, paid to get on this demo, or they gave codes to their friends, but they paid personally, right? I mean, maybe there were too many people for EA to handle, but again, like, you're EA, you're a multi-billion company. You should have the resources, you know, to put up with that, and to be able to have at least I understand server problems, but the infinite loading was just inexcusable, and you know, I hope this gets fixed for the open beta. I don't want to see it in the open beta at all. If this happens, then this is gonna start getting scary for release. So the infinite loading screen was a big problem. There were a lot of sound issues also. Every single one of my friends, including me, we all had this bug. Like, in this run right here, at first I wanted to show this run, which is the very last run of the stronghold that we did before the servers closed out. But throughout this whole time, I am hearing nothing but static in my earplugs. And I can barely hear my friends in party chat because of that. And so, like, my experience was kind of like my last Anthem experience was like, yay, I can't hear my guns, I can barely hear my friends, I'm just playing in silence, and it's just dead right now. And it wasn't just like not having any sound coming from the game, but it would also affect all sound from the PS4. Like, you would literally close application, and then you're going into menus and you can't hear the clicks. You're opening Netflix, you can't hear anything, and so you had to literally restart your whole console. So that was a big problem, and that was a weird problem. I've never seen that kind of issue, and like, at first when it happened, it got me kind of worried, and I was like, man, like, did this game just like fuck up my sound or something? And you know, the fact that it happened to me, it happened to my friends, it happened to my girlfriend, like, it's actually happening commonly, and you know, so that needs to be fixed. There were also, you know, all that problem seemed to go away near the end, but at first it was like constantly, like, you're fighting monsters, and as you're killing them, bang, they just disappear. I have one instance where I'm literally going to attack enemies and they disappear, and instead of them there's like a house. And I'm like, oh, okay, that was weird. But these are like acceptable bugs. Like, these are ones that, you know, you'll get a little laugh out of it if it's not happening constantly. Like, at this point I was ready to laugh because it had been a while since enemies disappeared. But at first in free roam it was like all the time, and you're trying to have a gunfight, and you're like, yes, time to enjoy myself, and the enemy, and you have like dozens of enemies just disappearing out of your screen, and you're like, it's just a big letdown. You're just left there, and you're like, I had my ultimate, I was ready to unload, and now I can't. So, you know, it got better as it went on, but again, another problem I don't want to see on release. I don't want to see it in the next beta for sure. And then there's all the worries of what EA, well, I think it was BioWare, who stated about the demo that, you know, the big thing that comes out is, you know, balance is super different, and all that stuff, right? Like, this is not an accurate representation of what the game will be, because, you know, like, for example, with loot. During the demo, me and my friends were getting dozens of items per mission, and I kind of felt like, I was like, oh my god, like this is awesome, we're getting so much stuff. Every time we'd come back to Fort Tarsis, we'd have all these different new abilities, new weapons that we could play with, and so I felt like I was constantly getting new things, and they weren't necessarily like way more powerful, but there were more options, and that is something that I really enjoyed. You know, just getting more options every time you do a mission. That to me was the big thing. So, like, are we still gonna earn that much gear after a mission, or is it gonna be more like Destiny, where you're like doing a whole stronghold for like maybe one legendary, one rare, per chest? Because that could become a problem. I feel like I had the feeling of constant reward every time I was playing it. This is a key aspect of a good looter shooter, which I feel like sometimes, you know, Destiny, I remember like from Destiny 1 and onwards, you know, doing a raid and literally coming out of it with nothing. Nothing that boosted your like, nothing that felt worth it, and you're just like taken out of it. You're like, why the fuck did I do this raid for? I just wasted like 45 minutes for nothing. So that is something to look at. And then there's, you know, the in-game economy, you know, with cosmetics, right? Because they promised they're not gonna give any stat advantages through microtransactions, because they don't want to get burned like they got burned with Battlefront 2, pretty much. But you know, a big aspect that I like about Anthem is the freedom to look how you want to look, and being able to make your javelin your own. But what if what we got in the demo was just a taste of it, and then they're gonna, you know, hide all these colors and these options behind a paywall? You know, I was able to buy a few armor pieces for like 25 bucks a piece, but like they said, it's not representative of the final price that these items will have in the actual shop. So, you know, are they gonna give us a crazy grind for fashion? You know, are you gonna have to grind hundreds and hundreds of hours just to look the way you want to look? Or are you literally just gonna have to pay real money? You know, that's a thing to look out for. Like, and that's where, you know, the EA greed kind of comes in, and you know why I don't want to be too hyped, but then I played the game, and I'm completely sold, and I'm completely hyped. Like, like I said, when the game works, it just does, and it's awesome, and I love it. But this is Electronic Arts, and like I have hopes for BioWare. BioWare in the past have been the developers that gave me my favorite games ever, right? Knights of the Old Republic, Dragon Age Origins, Jade Empire. But then, you know, they gave us also a few disappointments, you know, like, I mean, Andromeda, right? Like, I loved the original Mass Effect trilogy, but I just couldn't bring myself to play Andromeda. Which, now that I think of it, if you ever played that game, I will say, it feels kind of like, I see the Destiny comparisons, but once you've played Andromeda, you kind of see that, you know, Anthem is very similar to Mass Effect in the way that it feels to play. You know, it's literally Mass Effect with jetpacks is what it is, really, with more powerful weapons and all that. So yeah, so there are things to watch, right? So I'm hoping maybe that the open beta could be a little more representative of the final product, right? Like, are the XP gains that we're receiving right now the actual XP gains we'll get in game, or is it going to be more grindy? You know, and about the looting and the cosmetics, I kind of want to, I mean, we need to see. That's the thing that's gonna, you know, maybe potentially push away people from the game. And I feel like we do need to see that. Some people are definitely holding back because they're waiting for the confirmation if this game is gonna be greedy as fuck, right? Um, but like I said, I do have hope, especially when I played the Stronghold. I will say for now, the campaign missions felt a little bit repetitive here and there. Like you're just going from point A to point B and killing X amount of enemies. You know, kind of like Destiny 1, right? Like go to point A, activate the thing, fight 3 waves, and then you're done. But in the Stronghold, you know, the boss fight gave me hope. You know, I like the boss fight. It's not the hardest boss fight ever. But at this point, I feel like, you know, this is the first Stronghold that you encounter in the game, in the final game, probably. So probably this Stronghold is more to introduce you to the different mechanics and boss fights and all that. So, you know, I am hopeful that we're gonna get some harder boss fights later on. You know, you do have a moment in the campaign where you have this little puzzle, which gave me hope for like potential raids for the game. So, you know, if you ask me, like, is Anthem a good game? It sure feels like it. I had a blast with my friends. I was having fun. I love the customization. I love the gameplay of it. And I have high hopes for it. But at the same time, you know, there were a lot of issues in the demo. And, you know, there's all these unresolved questions about how they're actually going to monetize the game. Because they intend to give us free content in the updates, right? Like everything that's going to be more story, more missions, more strongholds, and you know, feature wise is going to be free, which, you know, is really nice. It doesn't separate the player base, so I like that decision. But then, like, is it gonna come at the cost of freedom and customization options and all that? Is what I'm worried about. So we're gonna have to wait and see on that part. Hopefully we get a more honest version of the game in the next beta. But I feel like maybe they don't want us to know until release, so we'll have to check that. So like I said, if you're on the fence, I would say don't get into it just yet and wait for reviews. But if you're like me and you're a big looter shooter fan and you like mechs, you like exosuits, I feel like this game has a lot of potential. I like it enough that I feel like maybe going through the campaigns and, you know, going through the grind is gonna be enough for me. But that's, you know, having played it, that's, you know, I was skeptical at first, and then I played it and I saw the potential, and I'm just gonna hope that it does achieve that potential. Because if it does, like, this could be my next Destiny, right? Like, I never got into Destiny 2 as much as I got into Destiny 1, and I kind of missed having that game to just go back to. Like, Monster Hunter World, for a long time was like my game. But, you know, until Iceborne is out, like, I'll check out, like I checked out the festival right now that we have, and I'm looking forward to Iceborne. But you know, I feel like Monster Hunter is more of an on and off game, whereas this game, you know, I could see myself playing a lot with my friends and, you know, playing with other people online also, especially if we have, you know, some kind of hardcore raid. That could be really cool. So this is my opinion on Anthem, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.